Here we go. Baron going, the double mountains are the target. That's hard. G2 pushing mid. They have, they're realm warping. They're realm warping in. G2 are going in the base, the Baron buff though. They can get the recalls. How many can they stop? G2, you gotta stop them all. You gotta stop them all. They're in the base. G2 are looking for the win. Can they pull it off? The realm warp. Once again, the Requiem goes out. They wait. The Nexus. The Baron. No way! The Nexus towers in the one side. G2 get the first weapon. Reckless and Intersect. Get in the back door. You can do that to them!
We have 1 minute, that's all we need, that's all we need. We can actually go midway, no? And jump
Okay, let's go.
Right shoulder.
Yeah,
I
I don't know if they get it. If I right here, do they go?
Yeah, just go. I will go find out, Brad.
We're going.
Can they backdoor? Can they rise ult to mid?
I think it's okay.
If we don't get there running mid, they're going for backdoor.
Yeah, they're going for backdoor.
I'm
gonna go over the... Wait.
Can we backdoor? Can we go enemy base? Enemy base. I'm going enemy base.
I'll stop them.
Can we go?
I'm basing.
I'm dead.
I'm basing. I'm gonna...
I didn't get base.
I got base.
Please, heal.
I can't stop that.
Please, win.
Keep hitting. You have it.
No! Yes, man! Go!
Oh, I loved hearing the comms on that. Welcome back, everybody, to the LEC Spring Split for the last scheduled game of the regular season. Even the camera cannot believe it. I'm so glad we got to hear that with comms because it's actually Reckless saying, Hilly, please, Hilly, please.
But it's insane, actually. It was Hilly-san the one saying, like, we can end the game. We can go into the Nexus. That was insane to watch,
that was absolutely fantastic. And Fnatic is back on the docket. They're up versus Splyce, and there are some possible huge implications for the playoff race. So I want to go over to Medic for the playoff checkup. Okay,
I'm here.
He's right.
I'm ready with the checkup. We still have a possibility of 3 tiebreaker games. Now, Splyce need to win if they want to force a tiebreaker against Origin for the 2nd place. If they lose, though, we could get 3 tiebreaker games that will all be played tomorrow.
That will all be played tomorrow.
Check it up.
So if Fnatic win, does that mean Origin automatically gets 2nd place?
It does.
And where does Fnatic and Splyce end up?
Fnatic would end up 3rd, Splyce would end up 4th, Vitality would be 5th, and Schalke and SK play for 6th place.
Which is absolutely huge because as 3rd place, you can pick who you want to play between 5 and 6. So the implications are huge, and we will have to see what happens here. So let's talk about Fnatic, and let's talk about what they did in the 2nd half of the split, because we had written them off, right? We had written them off the first couple of weeks. And Caps is out. This team is dead in the water. They're never going to do as good. But in the 2nd half of the split, they are the best team. They are in 7-0. They beat G2 yesterday. Aranea, what is so good about Fnatic right now?
I mean, we keep saying the same, how they come to every single game with a game plan. They come to every single game knowing what they want to do from level 1. They know for what lane they want to play, and they actually commit it correctly. They also put in a lot of attention into the mid lane, into Nemesis, and Broxa playing around the Nemesis Prio into side lanes is actually the key point.
As we get into this discussion, I would like you guys also at home to vote on this super important game. Spam in chat SPY or FNC if you think Fnatic or Splyce are going to take this one. As said, Fnatic looking absolutely unstoppable. We'll see if Splyce can stop them, because Medic, Splyce, no small feat themselves. They have done fantastic. They have ramped up as the season has gone on and are now challenging for 2nd.
Yeah, I think the thing with Splyce is we always knew they were a consistent team. We always knew they were a relatively good team at playing towards their win conditions. But the last few weeks have really exemplified that for me. Like, especially in their game against G2, they kind of started to fall behind, but they were willing to wait it out. They delayed the game. They stalled G2, who are one of our best teams in the league, and then were able to play to their win conditions. Kobe, especially, has really stood out to me as a star performer.
Absolutely. The teams are about ready. I do want to talk about Kobe, but also about the mid lane for a second before we get there. Humanoid versus Nemesis is so incredibly cool that these two rookies find themselves against each other for a spot in the playoffs. And, well, for 2nd place for Splyce then. Who has been the best so far, Aranea?
I mean, it's funny because I had to coach them both on Mad Lions. I started having
Sucks for them.
Humanoid.
No.
I'm gone.
I'm just kidding.
So I started coaching Humanoid, but he was at that time at the school.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to bring him out of school or anything like that. Education is so important for these kids, for these guys. So I didn't want to bring him out of school. So I got Nemesis after that, so they were both my mid laners. I think one excel on laning phase, on knowing what to do every single moment of the laning phase, while the other one that is Nemesis excel more on knowing what to do in the map, having the mid prio and controlling the silence for that.
All right, so who will then be victorious in this one? The crowd thinks, and the viewers at home, 82% of that Fnatic Faith Medic. Is Fnatic gonna win?
I think Fnatic take it.
How?
Their early game seems super strong, especially the Brox and Nemesis synergy that we've seen over the last few weeks. I think if they can keep that going, they can really accelerate this game away from Splyce.
Well, fantastic. Before we get into this game, after this game, the LEC coverage will continue on twitch.tv/LEC with the LCS countdown taking over the Riot Games channel. Now, if Fnatic win, we will have Schalke versus SK as Game 6 today. And if Splyce win, we will have PGL starting after this match with all tiebreaker games, all 3 being played tomorrow. Regardless, if you want to do so, you can already go over to twitch.tv/LEC as that is live already, and there'll be less people so you can chat and they can see everything you type.
Yep.
That's great.
If you're on YouTube as well, you don't need to do anything.
You don't need to do anything.
So.
It is automatic. Indeed. So with all that housekeeping, throw it overboard because it is do or die for Splyce if they want to get to second place. They're up versus Fnatic. Let's get on to the Rift.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a large game. And luckily I have 2 very powerful casters to join me. I'm going to introduce them in reverse order. Frostgar and Bam.
I'm old. My knees don't work very well.
Andrew, stand up. She ruined it. You're supposed to dramatically rise. Fnatic did it on the desk.
Sorry.
It looks so fantastic. Frost is joining us for the final game. It's me. It's Ender. It's Frost. This is going to be an insane game, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot lie to you. The stakes on this game are wild for so many teams, and not just the teams in this game. Remember that right now, Fnatic win, OG locks second right off the bat. Splyce win, 3 tiebreakers.
So many tiebreakers. It all comes down to this.
Absolutely does. Champion select, of course, is going to be critical. There's a lot of things we can talk about. The mid lane match was brought up on the desk. AD carries, top lane, jungle, every single part of the map. Feels like it could be explosive, but where do you guys want to put your attention?
I mean, I think when Fnatic and, I'm just going to say, forget the team names, when Reckless and Kabe are in the game, everything is going to go down to that bot lane. Recently, Splyce have been pulling out the likes of the Vayne. Things like Karthus still matter a lot to them, so I think there's a lot of specific targeted bans against Splyce if you're Fnatic.
And already seeing one of them right here. It's actually the Poppy here for Vizichachi.
Makes me think that they want to flex that Jarvan. I know that Poppy does very well into Jarvan into the top lane, and so I think it gives them a bit more freedom there, as well as taking away a comfort pick from Chachi.
Yeah, I also believe Chachi played that yesterday in Splyce's win, so just removing some of the picks that have worked for Splyce historically in the past. I think the Rise is another one of those very strong flex options they can sort of put in either of the 2 solo lanes and have a pretty good time. So Fnatic get to target ban some very specific champions for Splyce, like you mentioned, whereas Splyce, being on red side, you have to ban Lucian, you have to ban Jace, and maybe even the Jarvan on top.
But there's also the Draven that's up and available, and this is something that a lot of teams seem to just be afraid of. Again, Rakan, so taking away champions that are very specific to these teams, but then things like the Draven fall through, and I feel like it's a gut check. Can you play this champion? Will you dominate the lane phase with it?
And honestly, you look at a player like Reckless, he's probably not going to go for the Draven. I don't associate that champion with him, whereas Kabe has played it in the past. Now, Fnatic, they're actually going to mix things up because I was looking at the Jarvan as sort of the big priority pick coming into this draft, but instead it's the safe Braum here to secure early game safety for Reckless in the laning phase.
And I think that might even be a response to what happens in the bot lane, because it feels like by leaving big power picks open, if Kabe chooses to go that route, that if you grab the Braum, because it makes looking and chasing for axes so much more dangerous because you have a guide for North Garen there, or excuse me, for Hilly there.
Yeah, now here's the duo that SK locked in immediately earlier in their game, the Lissandra plus Thresh, which is a very strong combination for singling out individual members. I'm going to look towards North Garen to be making plays here on this Thresh and coming up clutch to isolate individual members from Fnatic.
And we also saw this combo paired with a hyper carry in the form of Jinx. I wonder if Splyce will do something similar, get that hyper carry for Kabe, or if they will go for that aggressive pick like the Draven, of course, still up and available in these first rotations. But in the meanwhile, Nemesis has gotten that Zoe into the Lissandra mid lane, and that already feels like a pretty good setup.
Yeah, it's very nice. You have the range advantage over the Lissandra. You can use the bubble to bait out an ultimate from that pick as well. And on top of the Zoe, Fnatic also got this Flex Jarvan. So it's very immediate fight-starting tools here for Fnatic that they needed, because when you go for a Braum, it's less engage. Now they have the Jarvan to round out the comp.
And it feels like by taking also a flex of the Aatrox that can be flexed to both Xerxes and Chachi between jungle and top lane, that they're kind of dissuading a Renekton pickup, because we've seen how the Aatrox pick can work into the Renekton, and it's almost trying to force that Jarvan to be up into the top lane.
Exactly, and Renekton is one of those relatively safe blind pickable champions, I feel like, so trying to, as you said, dissuade Whippo from going for that champion himself when he's been very outspoken that he thinks the Renekton is one of the best top laners at the moment is a good option here for Splyce. Now look what they're banning away, because they start with the Sivir, which I think is really clever, making it so you can't have the spell shield up against the Thresh, and also just knowing that when you lock in a Braum here, if you're in the mind of Reckless, it's probably a more scaling pick for that AD carry.
Absolutely, and of course when you already have a Braum and a Jarvan, two champions who are pretty good at these front-to-back team fights, why give a champion like Sivir, who you just auto-attack the champion to the front and you hit all of them? Feels like easy late-game team fighting. Of course, champions like the Jinx are still available. Rek'Sai and Nocturne banned out as well. Fnatic's final ban here before we enter the second pick phase. Will they limit the jungle pool any further? Or will they take away one of these priority AD carries, and it will be the Kalista banned away from Kobbe?
I feel like it's about sculpting specific matchups with that second rotation ban phase from Fnatic. By banning away the Nocturne, it helps keep Nemesis safe on the Zoe. I talked about this on the analyst desk. Nocturne can just delete Zoe if she finds her in the backline, and then Kalista, you're trying to limit some of the power play that Kobbe will have there, but he still finds it.
Yeah, I mean, you ban away one of the really strong early game laning phase AD carries. Kobbe is going to lock in the other one, the Draven, with a 44% ban rate here in the LEC. It's one of those champions that not every AD carry plays, but the ones that do look to crush you in the 2v2.
And this was the skill check. You know, we left the Draven open. Reckless didn't take it. Instead, he's going to throw down the gauntlet and grab the Vayne, but Kobbe said, I'm going to get this one for free, and he's got it.
I love this Vayne pick here for Reckless. It's such a strong 2-item spiking AD carry, and when you look at the side of Splyce where they don't have a ton of reliable CC, I think he can rock in with a QSS and be very aggressive with how he wants to fight in these 5v5s.
And remember, putting their cards on the table here now with that final pick, taking the Skarner into the jungle for Broxa. Fnatic winning here locks them in third place, which means they'll have their choice between Vitality and the winner of the tiebreaker between SK and Schalke. Very important, kind of sculpting not only some of these ideal matchups in the bot lane, but ideal opponents in the playoffs. Splyce, though, will have something to say about it. The final pick moments away from coming through, as will be revealed. It looks like, I don't actually know, this could be Aatrox jungle. It could also be Rumble jungle. Xerxes was known for it for a long time.
Yeah, Xerxes was known for it in the past, but there were some changes to make it a little bit worse for that Rumble in the jungle. I think this is going to be a top lane pick. Now, this gets very interesting because I think that the Rumble does some nice things in the matchup up against the Jarvan, where you can get a shove advantage with the Flame Spitter, but you are very vulnerable to ganks here from the Skarner. Jarvan provides such great setup, especially at that level 6 point, that Chachi is going to have to respect Brox's ability to gank him.
It felt like they needed to diversify their damage portfolio. The fact that they had an Aatrox jungle and then a Draven, they couldn't just have all AD by looking for a traditional bruiser into the top lane, and so making that pivot and grabbing an AP user so they at least have 2 AP.
Yeah, still surprising though that you wouldn't then go for something like the Kennen or the Vladimir. We've seen, yeah, the Jarvan can have a decent time going in that 1v1, but the Rumble is definitely a much riskier pick, I would say here, being a melee champion that can be so vulnerable to the punish.
And I've seen, you know, last time I saw this pick, I remember Cabo picking it up as an option, and it struggled. When this champion gets behind, it feels very irrelevant. So expecting to see Vizichachi try to find a strong early lead, try to find some kind of advantage, maybe keeping that push up in the lane. Of course, crucial to do so.
And everyone needs to pay attention to what the first Dragon rotations are going to be. Rumble excels fighting into River and fighting over Dragon level 6, level 11, anytime he gets to use points into his ultimate. So if it's something like an Infernal and you have a Draven on Kobbe and a Rumble up into the top lane, that is so good for Splyce.
Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. It will not be the final game, but it will be the final game of the regular season. Splyce versus Fnatic. Splyce somehow have kept their dreams alive in the race for second. And Fnatic can look to take that all away. The Fnatic fans here tonight want to see them lock in third place with a win here. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. One more game.
So just to take stock, I took a peek. It is going to be that Cloud Dragon, so not necessarily what Splyce wanted to watch. It means that Fnatic, if they don't find an early snowball, could just say, you take the first dragon. We're not going to challenge Rumble when he's strong. Try to outscale him, perhaps. But the other thing that I want to point to people is Fnatic's level 1. They are notorious for their level 1s. They love to split maps. They love to try to 3-buff people, and they love to create strong sides of map. And it feels like Splyce are ready for this because they're trying to very early scout out Fnatic's positioning.
Yeah, and they're going to see Brox and Whippo tag team to grab that Scuttle Crab Spire here for Brox. Now, it is very important to hold on to those in terms of Brox's early game clear here on the Skarner. But this is a pick that we haven't really seen in a while, and I think it is important to highlight that early game strength is not necessarily what the Skarner pick is known for. Now, that being said, I think when you go against a Aatrox on the other side, that's another softer early game matchup that I think will give Broxus some breathing room to get up some levels in the kit and eventually reach that level 6 point, which brings so much kill threat.
Yeah, it's about cruising through your jungle. You're able to do that now that the Spires can reach virtually every single camp, so your mana regen stays really high. You can wiggle your way through quite effectively. It means that your movement speed through your jungle and through your lanes is that much better for Skarner, so his gank paths have gotten slightly better, but I want to quickly point out the scouting again from Splyce. I actually think they're one of the best teams at scouting their opponents because of all of the deep vision that they have, and then recognizing, okay, Fnatic love to do early on tricky plays. They didn't catch this one
Did
out.
not see this one coming. Broxton now moving down to the bottom side. The CC coming through. Northscare needs to make his way out of there. One more stun to lock him up. Reckless now going to grab first blood. Draven running for his life. It's nightmare scenario for Splyce, and a double for the Vayne.
It's a double kill for Reckless's Vayne to start off the game. Brilliant pathing here from Brox. A level 2 gank on the bottom side of the map that you never expect if you're Splyce.
And again, you can see that Splyce wanted to scout out Brox, so they wanted to track him. They invested so heavily into deep wards into the jungle, but just complete left field. That is disaster for Splyce.
It's so bad here, and you think about the level 1 Braum and the early CC here of Brox as we check this out in an Alienware big play. Oh man, Northscare has nowhere to go because of the concussive blow stacking. You see Brox actually lands a double E right there, so they get the flash off of Kave. He then has nowhere to go because again, you apply the concussive blows as well. It's just beautiful stuff.
Yeah, getting away from Braum, Skarner, good luck.
Yeah, you're not going to.
And just absolutely brutal. Once again, over this week, we have seen so many early jungle paths just decide games. And Brox are looking to keep that train rolling. Flag and drag is available. Look for the Fracture. Where's the stun going to go? Quick flash out from Visitachi. Flash forward from Brox.
Okay.
We're going to give him that one after the bot lane gank, but a little question.
I think it was a bit more trust on Whippo, and he'd already kind of committed to the play. He was expecting some fancy footwork for that to connect. I like the trust fall.
That was not a very good flash.
Does not matter too much. The bad news right now for Fnatic, and of course right now things are going quite well, as they've almost got that 1K gold lead early on, is that Reckless has not found an opportunity to back yet, and Draven's still a very big threat until Reckless is able to spend that gold, so pressure definitely will go in favor of the Draven. And additionally, the Kleptomancy means that Kave does have some tools to catch up, at least in terms of raw gold value.
Yeah, and the Kleptomancy on the Draven is something we've seen actually really consistently ever since the changes to Conqueror. Conqueror doesn't really benefit ranged champions as much as the old version did, so whereas before Dravens were going for the Conqueror, nowadays it's much more about the Kleptomancy. And the reason why this is so good is because every time you pick up an axe, it resets the cooldown on your W, which is basically a movement speed, attack speed steroid. So he pops that and then can walk in and easily proc the Kleptomancy.
Xerxes though now moving.
Oh, no!
Well done by Brox to get
So
your reset.
awkward. Nemesis is here now too. Humanoid is going to be in trouble. Now trying to claw his way out. No CC's going to connect. Humanoid now on the run. Whippo now coming down. Flag and drag available. He's going to move right in onto Xerxes. Of course, only a level 3 there, but they're chasing Humanoid instead. It's a split call from Fnatic. Humanoid is going to get stunned up. Nemesis on the way. They want to snowball that mid laner, and he's going to be able to grab it. Domination here in the early game for Fnatic, not afraid to collapse on those plays.
Oh man, Fnatic able to get the punish there. Splyce wanted so badly to steal away that blue buff, and they couldn't even get that. Humanoid ends up paying for the sins of his jungler right there, and Fnatic get their 3rd kill of the early game.
And now Splyce just need to cool it. They've already kind of fed away any early game advantage that they would have had. It's where their composition can really thrive when they're playing around initial level 6. So from now, it should just be about go back to your own jungle, slow everything down, and staunch the bleeding.
Yeah, and speaking of slowing things down, Nemesis had picked up the snow hose with the GLP, so he's able to slow down Humanoid and buy some room here for Broxah to pop the Predator and secure this kill for Nemesis.
How much free gold do you think Zoe gets off of that? Just because she could pick up random items, random summoner spells, it's just absurd.
Probably a lot, because it really helped secure that kill here for Nemesis. And now look at this. It's a Zoe with Flash and Cleanse still available versus 0 summoner spells on the side of Humanoid in a matchup that should eventually get worse and worse for this Lissandra as Zoe continues to build range and poke from afar. But this is not the position you want to be in here if you are Humanoid.
No, absolutely not. And right now, that top lane matchup for Rumble, things are at least going well up there. Rumble able to sustain the pressure, but Bwipo's still been able to make an impact in some of these skirmishes. Despite all that, Frostcorn, you wanted them to slow down. Not going to happen. Splyce want to keep this breakneck pace of the game. They believe that they can turn this one. Rekkles still has not bought. All of this gold advantage on the Vayne is absolutely meaningless right now because there are no items.
This isn't about Splyce making the dive right there. I don't think they're that zealous, especially when Nemesis had the early rotation after them as well. That was about securing the plates for Draven, trying to get Kaveh back into this game.
Yeah, and also denying some minions from Rekkles as he backs away and sort of respects the ability for Humanoid and Xerxes to come down here. And you know, we talk about this mid lane matchup as if Nemesis has a big advantage here on the Zoe, and honestly, that just isn't true at the start of the game. Lissandra has very good control over the minion waves, so while I'm not very confident in Splyce's ability to actually pull off this dive in the bottom lane, I really like the fact that we see Humanoid and Xerxes moving together to threaten the possibility.
Good look right now from Splyce to try to hold in this. Once again, the gold lead not insurmountable, but very large given how early the game is. Vizicsacsi remaining a strong point on the map, at least at this stage. Early magic penetration going to make this matchup much easier. Bwipo continues to take poor ends of trades, with Equalizer and Cataclysm, two crucial ults in what could be the coming fights.
That is also the nice thing, you know, while Splyce are having so much attention drawn to the bottom lane and having Fnatic respond or shadow after them, it does mean that Chachi is left alone to an island against a Jarvan that hasn't itemized into that MR yet, allowing him to eke some more gold and experience from this matchup.
Yeah, and that being said, I mean, Vizicsacsi has a slight CS lead at the moment, but it's not necessarily what we might have expected when you see this Rumble sort of come out of left field, and it's like, okay, maybe Chachi has something planned. I think it's pretty clear that it's not a pick for the laning phase necessarily, as much as it is Splyce, again, trying to set up for these team fights on very low itemization, because what you'll see from the Rumble is they'll go for the Oblivion Orb as well as the Sorcery Shoes, and you get that flat penetration very early on into the game, and that's where his base damages really can cut through some of the squishier members of Fnatic.
And Equalizer, of course, just insanely high base damage, along with, I mean, if you stay infinite for the whole duration, a 1.5 scaling AP ratio. So this is an ultimate that, I mean, there's reasons why when Rumble's in competitive, you are scared of this champion because of just how impactful this ultimate can be.
Yeah, and when you layer it with something like the Lissandra, well, Lissol just can't miss. So you drop that down on a priority target, and they are going to cook for the full duration of that CC. So there are some synergies here that Splyce can work with inside of the team fight.
But now, sadly, for Splyce, Vizicsacsi is going to have to wait for that cooldown to come back up, because in the end, he does use the ultimate to clear the wave to get this back off so that he can buy that early Oblivion Orb, along with some armor to maybe balance this matchup out in his favor.
And it feels like the early fumble from Splyce and Fnatic's jungle meant that there was never going to be a play at level 6 for Rumble. It was always going to be used to clear the wave, and now you're kind of looking for that, you know, next point in the ultimate ability before things start getting going for Splyce.
Yeah, I think if we sort of look forward to what does the first big team fight look like, it almost always is going to be focused around this bottom lane. I think there's a lot of kill threat because both supports are bringing so much CC to the table, as well as two top laners that really want to teleport and look for plays around the bottom lane early. We talk about Rumble a lot, but the Jarvan as well has so many tools for trying to shut down a low mobility carry like the Draven.
Humanoid finding Nemesis just continuing to poke him. Xerxes there to back him up if he needs it. But I don't even know if we're going to get the team fight. You know, Vayne, you've got Zoe, you've got the Skarner, you've got so many tools for Fnatic to just pick someone off before a fight can even start. And since it does kind of feel like the ball is in their court at this stage of the game, Frostcorn, however, as predicted, this Cloud Drake in the early game does mean that we're not going to get that arena that we're looking for.
Also some very smart vision from Splyce. You saw that the ward just expired behind the Dragon Pit that actually caught Broxah, wiggling his way from mid to bottom and kind of giving the heads up to Splyce members when they need to play safe appropriately.
Now the top lane duel coming out. Vizicsacsi still silenced. Bwipo sees an opportunity to extend the play, knowing that the ultimate is not available.
but still not going to be able to get anything in. Just a flash for flash trade and some bit of pressure.
I feel like there's a lot of situations there where Bwipo will always trade the flash and try to get the kill when he doesn't necessarily have to. He could have just taken the flash and had the advantage, but he saw blood in the water. He wanted to flash forward for that kill. And now that he doesn't have the flash, I think it's going to be harder to punish this Rumble.
I don't know. I think it might actually even be easier if there's not a 2v2. I definitely agree that he'd need the flash to outmaneuver that one, but now Bwipo's thinking like, I just traded my ultimate for a flash. You're dead next time.
Okay, so here's my concern, right? I want to harken back to the last time these two teams played. Hold that thought if Bwipo wants to go in. Do you remember Bwipo playing Jace? Hold that thought too. We might see a fight on the bottom side. Reckless now pushing forward.
Watch the wall.
Potentially in trouble. Cuts of blows. Just now stacking on the Thresh. Weren't able to get that one thus far. Now the TPs are coming in, but that's a sleepy Lissandra. Kabi now taking down Hylissang. That's a cash out as well. This play has turned so quickly against Fnatic.
Humanoid got slept as before he went through with that TP, so he came in on the other end, unable to follow up and get the kill onto Reckless, but it's still a massive win here for Splyce as they get the kill onto Hylissang and a lot of plate money for Kabe.
And there's two things that led to that. The fact that Humanoid had the TP and Nemesis didn't, so he couldn't follow up, but you did see the Sleepy Trouble Bubble. And the fact that Jarvan had just expended everything against Rumble up on the top side, so even though he does have the teleport, there was no way that Bwipo would contribute anything to that fight.
Also, Bwipo stayed sort of proxying the wave in the top lane to get that extra wave denied from Chachi while Chachi went back to base. So had Bwipo looked to come in on the fight, he would have been lacking the cooldowns, lacking the HP, and the mana for sure.
And we take a look now back at this one. You can see exactly how it unfolded, and you can see Reckless hitting all these autos, but Hylissang doesn't get an auto attack off to start the fight, which means no concussive blows until this point, and at that point, it's already too late.
And I just think this is actually poor communication from Fnatic. You know, they had the engage, they got some summoners off of the duo lane from Splyce, but then they forced it, while Bwipo did not have his reset in the top lane, so they needed to be communicating better with him so that they could set up this play and respond with a TP of their own.
And of course, now when we check the gold numbers, you can see that Kabi's actually even now, slightly ahead, just ever so barely ahead. That will change as this turret play does fall, but what was, you know, an incredible start for the Vayne is now very much evened out.
Ooh.
Okay, now let's.
That's the Zoe Lissandra matchup.
Yeah.
Nah.
There are no words, ladies and gentlemen, for the strength of Zoe. Just sounds. Most of them, meh. And ugh.
It's just not fair.
I mean, they opted for it at the end of the day. And it has given them strength in some regards. Of course, Lissandra able to make a presence to the bot side. Unfortunately, didn't get an assist. And we shift our attention back to the top lane. Bwipo once again getting pushed in. Ninja Tabby going to shift this matchup a little bit back in the favor of Vizichachi.
Double MR. He's got the Hex Drinker and the Merc Treads. Bwipo's like, your time to die is now.
And up until that bot lane fight, I really thought Bwipo was playing this one perfectly, because by forcing the equalizer on the wave every time, Vizichachi would never get to contribute to a team fight, and he knows the rest of the map is stronger for him. Now that Splyce are starting to even things out, he might need to save that Cataclysm for the fights to come.
It's possible. You can also make the argument maybe Broxa should look topside to try and snowball this matchup a little bit more, because if Bwipo is burning the flash of Chachi and getting very near a kill in the 1v1 matchup himself, imagine if he has, 300 gold extra in this matchup. He can maybe just do a lot more in the 1v1.
I feel like there's one more gank left in bottom lane for Broxa. I'll hold it though.
Ooh, Redemption now coming in. That's a Zoe as well, and that's going to be able to turn the fight. This turns the 1v1 in the end. Bwipo gets it, has the Hex Drinker too, and now Nemesis is the one in trouble. They desperately want to steer from this, but no, the flash is now going to come out. Broxy here for the potential follow-up. Chilling Smite goes down, wants to pull Xerxes back, but is just going to back off in the end.
And that's why Bwipo is totally fine trading that flash, because he knew the next rotation it was going to be lights out for Chachi as long as it was an isolated matchup.
Very nicely done by Bwipo. Wasn't really a 1v1 because the redemption came in there from Nemesis as well. He had to use both of his summoner spells to escape for that anyways. But, I mean, Fnatic are in a really good position now, I feel, because all of a sudden you have Bwipo that's killing Vizichachi up on the top side of the map. This was a counter pick for Splyce's top laner, and Splyce haven't been able to find the big team fight that you would really like to have with this type of a pick.
And I also want to point out now the itemization for Reckless. So now that he's finally completed his Bork, he was in a bit of a sticky situation where Kabe was sitting on the completed Bloodthirster before Reckless got to have a shop in. The nice thing about Vayne is that she gets so much flat AD from her ultimate that she can itemize into the attack speed and then basically just have a free BF sword that Kabe would have built into his Bloodthirster. So as soon as she presses R, there's nothing Kabe can do. She's going to attack faster than him, she's going to hit harder than him, she's going to have massive kill pressure on him.
It's the ultimate dueling 1v1.
Did you put that on your head?
No. Nobody noticed that the mic wasn't on my mouth, but
All right.
as a what?
Comedic interlude. I'll spare you. Reminder,
welcome.
ladies and gentlemen, if you are enjoying this game, then now is the time to switch over to twitch.tv/LEC. We are live there now, and that will be continued coverage for the tiebreakers as we move later into the night. That is, of course, as well as PGL. And if we have 3, they will still be played tomorrow, but good opportunity. Rare moment of pause in an otherwise explosive game. Twitch.tv/LEC.
Nailed it.
Got it there in the end. People forgot about Ender's fumble, but now we have to look at the bot lane. 2, 3, 4. Oh! Nope, timing coming in there for Northscare. Oh, he's going to fall off because of blows. That's the stun going down. Reckless wants this one desperately. Flash coming out. Reckless waiting for a little bit more, but Northscare walks away with his life.
Absolutely disgusting damage in the 2v2 there from Fnatic, and you can see how the whole team is now playing around this bottom side of the map. Nemesis and Broxa constantly shading down towards this lane, and with Northscare being forced to go back to base, this is going to be a tower.
And it should mean that now when you rotate Reckless and Hilly up to the top side, it's going to be a fairly late Rift Herald coming in. Now, a lot of teams will try to grab Herald early so they can convert it into some plates, but I actually still like a late Herald, as long as you can crack something pretty pivotal like a mid lane tower. But this is smart of Xerxes.
Yeah, Xerxes will be on a ward here, however. Luckily, he has Northscaren coming towards the top side of the map, Kabe as well, so Whippo shouldn't be able to do too much, especially if Humanoid can help on out, but Humanoid actually just got massively chunked here by Nemesis, and Broxa is on the way.
Yeah, Humanoid,
Hold that thought. Vizichachi looks like he's next on the menu. Are they going to be able to kill him before this? Oh, Hourglass? Yeah. Nah, sorry. You go golden, but you're still dead. Brutal to watch. Just could not get it out. The chain CC there. Too clutch from the side of Fnatic.
And it's not just going to end there. Fnatic also have so much pressure in the mid lane that they're either going to get a free back or free damage on this tower. Who I wanted to congratulate, though, was Nemesis. The fact that he zoned off Humanoid meant that Splyce couldn't trade Chachi's life for the Rift Herald. They couldn't make a cross-map play because Lissandra couldn't zone Zoe away from the Rift Herald.
And now just look at all the objectives Fnatic got pretty much for free here. They got the kill in the bottom lane, they got the tower in the bottom lane, they got the Ocean Drake as well, and so much damage on that mid lane outer turret. So they don't even need a Herald to break that one down. All they have to do is bring 3 or 4 members, zone Humanoid away, or just kill him straight up.
We're trying to get some damage down. We'll force Lissandra out of lane. Humanoid once again chunked out, going to make the fight to follow difficult, and the objective on everyone's mind right now is that Herald. Scuttle Crab there to give at least a little bit of vision to the side of Splyce, but is only going to get more difficult. Tower's now starting to fall left and right.
And with them so low, if this Herald is taken before Baron and Nash take over the pit, that means your likelihood of being able to use a Herald on an inner structure is astronomical for Fnatic.
And what that means when you can actually break an inner tower is that it's not that much about map control, because I think the outer turrets are much more important for doing that, but it's just this giant gold infusion for your team. You add 1,000 gold to your mid game, and you're going to be in a very comfortable position, especially when you have a player like Reckless that's trying to reach that Ginsu's Rageblade. Once you get that on the Vayne, oh my, you don't lose any matchups.
And this terrifying point is that if Reckless hits 2 items and Splyce are not the team to start a fight, Vayne will run uncontested because it's so hard to lock her down. But if they can get that Lissandra ultimate, when Reckless does not have the luxury of a cleanse, maybe they can burst him out and take that gold away from the team.
Now, right before Nemesis might be prey here, I do want to say that Fnatic are doing a wonderful job avoiding Splyce and splitting up the map. This is where Splyce are actually strong right now. They've got the level 11 on the Rumble. They have complete control of this bottom
Flash
jungle.
Forward, locking down Whippo. He's desperately trying to escape the flag and dry. Takes him to safety.
And as long as you can avoid Splyce and absorb their time right now and then just trade across the map, that's a huge win for Fnatic, because as soon as that Rageblade comes in, which it's now online, they're ready to go.
Yeah, because all Whippo does is lose the flash. Now they're going for a play.
Oh, freeze frame.
You might be wondering how I got here.
How did we end up here? That's a good question. Once again, Fnatic getting the better end of that trade, 6-1. Now the kill score, 3K gold lead for Fnatic. The Herald being utilized, but this is potentially the pick. Reckless could be caught out here. Hylissang desperately trying to find the disengage. Reckless now on the retreat. Hylissang will go down. Nemesis, big damage on the backside. Broxa, they're debating. Do they want to extend this one? Sleepy Trouble Bubble misses. Whippo's now coming. This could be a slaughter. They're moving into the pinch. Broxa's running forward. It looks like Northscaren will be sacrificed to stop Whippo from making it onto his team. Nemesis now stepping forward. Vizichachi just barely living as a kill goes down. A tower drops in mid lane, but Vizichachi still not out of the danger zone yet. Nemesis trying to find a skill here, which is barely not going to hit Kabe, but now Fnatic are just barreling down mid lane.
It's just Zoe doing Zoe things right here as Nemesis runs all of Splyce throughout their own jungle. And before that play, you have to remember that Fnatic placed the Herald in the mid lane, so it got that tower while the engagement was ongoing, and Fnatic continued to pad that gold lead.
An item check, and that gold lead has now purchased Reckless the power point exactly where he wants to be, whereas Kobbe went for second item defensive, QSS. So in a major deficit right now is this Draven. Splyce, that was kind of like their one big window to take over the map to look for these team fights because they had the correct level power spikes. Now that they've kind of used it, spent it, didn't get much, they can't fight for anything on the map.
Oh, and it's just insult to injury. Humanoid.
Not again.
The Reckless Hylissang kill squad, roaming around the map, using concussive blows, and the incredible power that is 2-item Vayne to just pick Humanoid off multiple times here.
I mean, Humanoid keeps staying, thinking, I can press Q one more time, I can get that wave, but then the Vayne and the Braum run them down. You can see the power of this duo, but now they're going to have to pull up a 2v4 Dracos.
TP being committed, Reckless, 1,000 gold bounty, everyone's got their eyes on it. Who's going to get it in the end? Whippo now caught out, good start to the fight. Equalizer used, burning through those health bars. Reckless desperate to find something back, but Kobbe does so much damage! Vayne goes down, 1k gold, goes to the Thresh in an instant. Hylissang going to follow, but Nemesis now here to fire back. Whippo is going to make it out in the end, but that cash-in going to Thresh is catastrophic.
Overextension for overextension. Humanoid gets repaid in kind because Reckless and Hilly just blindly push it down. They think that they have the vision, but suddenly there's multiple members of Splyce. It was never a fair fight. What, 3v4?
A 3v4 once the TP comes in here from Whippo, gets immediately hooked up. And watch the placement on this equalizer because it means Reckless is on the defensive this entire fight. It's really hard for him to get in, and it means Kobbe can walk straight into him from the flank. And with Reckless a little bit distracted, Kobbe was able to almost get the kill himself. Unfortunately, it goes to Norscarin, so that 1,000 gold is not going to be exactly where Splyce wanted.
Still able to get the extra BF sword now, though, on the Kobbe, and the tier 2 mid lane does fall in the midst of all of that. So, checking in. 2.6k gold lead for the side of Fnatic. Splyce still making plays, still very much in this game, and despite Fnatic, for the most part, doing a good job of splitting this team up, they still have been able to find a few avenues to find fights in their favor.
And that's the key thing. It's that Splyce have been kind of splitting up Fnatic as Whippo. They went left, he went right, and he slipped underneath them.
This is the power, ladies and gentlemen, of the 2-item Vayne, as well as the Skarner on Aspire. It is now spotted out. We've seen Barons lose so many teams games today, and this week as a whole, but now Sleepy Rumble coming in. TP's now being burned. Splyce may have the arena that they wanted, but Humanoid is going to have to back off. Fnatic pull back and lose nothing in the exchange.
It was actually a really bold call there from Fnatic because Whippo was down splitting in the bottom lane without teleport, whereas Humanoid had his own. So Fnatic are going to actually pull this one off in order to get Xerxes away from the Ocean Drake. And that means Whippo can solo it out without Splyce having any idea what's going on.
And look at how confident Nemesis is. I believe he's rocking around with a hourglass sitting above him, and he's just 1v4. He was zoning off the entire team from Splyce.
Oh, Brock's on the flank. Good look for that priority pick. Hylissang potentially in trouble. 3-man knockup. Nemesis now on the backside. Reckless caught out. Follow-up is there. Reckless now running for his life, though the Vayne is just a little bit too strong to go down in the initial burst, but it's a split call. Xerxes leaping in onto Reckless. Reckless has to flash into safety. Ultimate. Xerxes slowly but surely ticking down. Oh, just barely not able to get a Broxy now flashing forward. The turn is going to come in. The concussive blows are just too clutch in the fight.
The split fight is a massive win here for Fnatic, and with the Ocean Drake, they're going to keep sustaining up. They're going to try to take this one down. Xerxes is way too low, but he stays in it. He has the flash. Can he make the steal happen?
Been spotted. The ward is there. If he goes around the corner, Kobbe is here too. Are they going to be able to go it? They're trying to balk him. Oh! Immediately deletes him. Eyes on Kobbe. Whirling dead. Not enough. The other 80 carry will take it in the end. Reckless secures the Baron.
Too close for comfort there when it's a Vayne that walks away with the Baron. That said, they did their job. They have the Baron and they have the power. Oh.
And
Fnatic.
Talk about it. Ender, you said the split fight helped Fnatic out in the end. Run me through it.
It was so huge. Now watch this. Watch where Reckless and Hylissang are, because at the start it looks like they get caught up. But Reckless, he has the QSS and he kites back away from the equalizer. That means there's no more damage that can actually follow down onto him. So he's dominating the 2v2 up on the top side of the fight, whereas the rest of Fnatic are crushing the 3v3 down bottom.
And in that Alienware replay, we saw Kobbe just could not get in the fight, did not feel comfortable approaching Humanoid in that exchange. And you know, it's desperation times. Whippo knows it, and he just goes right over. No ultimate for Xerxes means no hope of
How
taking
close?
that one. Oh. Yeah.
That was a clincher.
Yeah, not quite Fnatic G2 close, where we're talking a Realm Warp or an inhibitor respawning, but definitely very close there. And now Fnatic, no doubt, in the driver's seat, 7k up in their favor. And this is where Zoe
gets especially difficult to play against because surviving under your tower was already hard and it only gets worse.
It's definitely not fun here for Splyce, who have to sort of play with their backs against the wall. Yet if you saw yesterday's match, Fnatic versus G2, you think, hey, maybe this team might struggle to close out games. But I actually think they're in a very good position here with their composition because you have picks like the Jarvan and the Skarner that can immediately force, that can frontline for their team when they look for these sieges. And that was where they sort of lacked in this game against G2 just yesterday. So with this draft, Fnatic should be better equipped to close this one out.
I like how creatively the lane assignments can be when you have a Vayne who can play in a side lane like a traditional 1-3-1 to kind of cover up for the fact that Zoe can't. Zoe's going to really struggle to play a side lane due to her lower mobility. She's got great reach, but she's all about that control. She wants to have access to river and to choke points so that she can throw around. Now that you have a Vayne in this composition, doesn't even matter. So Fnatic are never forced to play a 1-4.
Yeah, it's actually a really good setup here for Fnatic as they just mop up all of these inner towers. And now the question Splyce asked themselves is, can we actually jump onto this Vayne? She's relatively low range. Maybe Reckless overextend to try and siege down onto these towers, and he doesn't have the flash. That is going to be crucial in an upcoming team fight if Splyce decide to pull the trigger.
Nemesis goes over the wall, half health spins Achachi immediately. Hosang now going to take the opportunity to start the fight. Goodbye to North Scaren. The Thresh immediately deleted. That's a sleepy Lysandra. Nemesis going to fire back. Humanoid is just going to get taken down. Double drop
goes on the
Reckless. Whipple looking for the back. Ooh, Reckless. You can feel it. He wants the pentakill. He knows he has the setup to get it, but they're going to retreat to the fountain and not give him. That's the triple coming in. Maybe he's going to be able to get a quadra. Fnatic have absolutely dominated in this game. A win here will lock them into third, and Splyce realizing that fourth place is looking them straight in the face if they can't turn this one around.
And there's just nothing that Splyce can do right here. It's just Chachi and Kabe with two Nexus turrets standing between Fnatic and the win.
One slip up this game in the bot lane, but otherwise incredibly clean play from Fnatic. And right here, right now, they lock themselves in for third place. And of course, the luxury now of picking their opponents. They can choose Vitality, or they can choose the winner of our upcoming tiebreaker between SK and Schalke No Fear. Reminder, twitch.tv/LEC is where you want to be if you want to check out our tiebreaker game. Otherwise, LCS Countdown is starting right now at twitch.tv/LCS. So your choice, high stakes games, dash.
It's fair.
Oh, man.
I
felt like I needed that to sit for just a second here. But man, oh man, Fnatic locking in third place. Now, imagine being one of these other teams ranked 4 through 6 in playoffs. You just don't want Fnatic to choose you. That is the worst thing that could happen to a team in the postseason.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Fnatic just went, what, undefeated in the back half of the LEC. It's only SK who have managed to take a game off of them. But since then, it's been a streak.
Yeah, they've been the hottest team in the second half of the split. There is no doubt about them. They completely leveled up their early game. They've taken down teams like G2. And now the question is, how high can this team go? Because it was a rough start for this team in the early weeks of the season. But since then, they have looked crisp.
And the change of stories for so many teams across the second half. Schalke falling so quickly from grace, whereas teams like Splyce, teams like Fnatic have started to rise up. Splyce, we didn't even think would be in this playoffs contention. Now they've secured themselves fourth place. Unsure of the opponent to come, but they do know that it's not Fnatic, so at least some good little bit of news. And now OG locked in second as well. So much happening in that game. And you know, North Scaren on the cusp of forcing that tiebreaker.
Fnatic and early game plays. If it's not a level 1, it's some sort of cheeky early game pathing. They love to do it. They love to split up maps, create a definite strong side, and Broxah just got the better of the pathing that time around.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a level 1 in the sense that they invaded, but the bot laners were still level 1 when Broxah came down there and got the free double kill for Reckless, which just put Fnatic in a beautiful position to win the game.
And again, I feel like you could see the scouting from Splyce. They recognized that something fishy was going to happen. They made sure that they got early eyes on Broxah. They were trying to mess with him. They had deep vision in there. It was just the one place that they didn't look. Broxah found a way in.
Oof, and you just gotta give a lot of credit to the junglers right now. I feel like after the jungle XP nerfs, it kind of died down. I wasn't really feeling it as much for the LEC junglers, but this past week, especially for guys like Cold, for guys like Broxah, showing up with just really smart early pathing committing to those ganks from these creative angles and making these early plays happen has just snowballed so many games out of control so early on. But of course, at home, if you want to vote for your favorite to win Kia Player of the Game, you need to head over to @LO Esports on Twitter and vote. We've narrowed it down to 3 names. That was 2. 3. Got it. Broxa, Reckless, Hillisang. Those are your options. Other than my failure with hand numbers, talk to me about who you think wins it.
Who I think wins it? Ooh, that's actually a pretty close call. I think Brox's early game pathing definitely can make an argument here.
I'm sorry, did he play Vayne?
No?
Did Hilly play Vayne?
Oh my, you guys are just
Case
KDA
closed.
voters. KDA
That's a free
voters.
win, baby.
Shame.
All right, well, the LCS is soon starting their week 8 with CLG versus Optec. Whoopee! To kick off the action. You can check out their countdown right here at twitch.tv/Riot Games. Here from Berlin, though, we're getting ready for our tiebreaker game. It's SK versus Schalke, followed by the LEC postgame lobby. We're going to be discussing today's action and preview the spring playoffs. If you want to watch all of that, you can change to twitch.tv/LEC, or if you're watching us on YouTube, just stay right where you are. We're going to be back after a quick break.